we are going to go ahead and start with our next speaker, who is Barry Reese. He is a lead data scientist with more than 10 years of experience in state of the art predictive and analytics management, strategy, development, and deployment. Originally from the US, he now works at Capgemini. I'm sorry if I pronounced that incorrectly, in Munich, where he is a full stack Python developer and lead data scientist. All right, thank you, and it's over to you, Barry.
Yeah, thanks for the introduction. Very, very interesting presentations today. I love the content. That last one was very interesting about the game design. As Isha mentioned, I'm Barry Reese. Can you go to the next slide, please? Okay. Yeah, I'm Barry Reese. I'm a lead data scientist. I mostly work on commercial applications and AI. Most recently, I'm working on quantum neural networks, which is a use case where you're trying to. It's a convolutional a neural network, but we're trying to get the benefits of quantum computing and quantum sensors. Interesting stuff. I live in Munich, as Isha said, and today what I'm going to talk about is how to structure a project. I've gotten a lot of questions in this hackathon about people that they don't know how to build a project or how to start one, or ideas for a project. And my audience today are people who have maybe never done a hackathon before, or if you have done a hackathon, maybe you weren't in charge of setting up a project. So these are people that are new to hackathons and never done it before, maybe don't have a lot of development experience. And I'm going to try and stay at a high level and just go through some basic stuff. Can you go through the next slide? Thank you. So yeah, at a high level in a hackathon, your project it's gonna have three main phases. Your design, build, and present. And so at the beginning, when you design a project, you are looking for a challenge you want to tackle. So for example, a challenge you want to tackle would be, let's say it could be something new technology for something of your interest. It could also be something like improving something that already exists. What is a hackathon not? It is a demonstration of how to use somebody else's software. That's a big one that some people ask, can we demonstrate some feature? No, it's in this hackathon, it's not really a focus here. It's generally building something new, taking a use case in art and doing something with it, or improving an existing technology. And once you've decided upon that design, you're gonna go through this build phase. And so in this phase is it every team is going to be different, but in the build phase, you want to structure your team. You want to resource the members of your team and try to put them on tasks they're going to be successful at, or what they'll find interesting. Sometimes in a hackathon, you'll have a complete team at the beginning. You'll know who you're going to work with, and it's clear. Other times there's a lot of individual participants that we have or could be out there, and you might want to coordinate with people who are individuals, maybe not on a team, and go to them with your ideas and ask them, based upon a skill they might have or an interest, whether they want to join your team. And that's what we call building a team around an idea. But in any case, in this build phase, the hackathon it's really all about team spirit. And you want to work as a team and surround yourself with people with the skills to make your dream a reality. But what is very important in a hackathon, particularly in this one, is this presentation. And what a lot of people that really have never done one. And actually, I've been on a team where we almost got caught with this, where we didn't give ourselves enough time to make a presentation, because it's important that you communicate your ideas, your solution, you communicate that to the judges. It's important. And if you've never given one of these before, it's fine. A lot of people haven't, but in general, at a high level, those presentations are going to have three main parts. You're going to first you're going to talk about your idea. You're going to give a problem statement, challenges and how you overcame them, and then your solution. And that's how the presentation normally goes. If you have any more detailed questions about what to do for your presentation, we're happy to answer those. I'm not going to go into a lot of detail about right now about specifically how to structure your presentation, but the key thing that you want to take away from this is give yourself adequate time to make a presentation and to present your ideas. Anybody, is everybody following me so far? Does anybody have any questions?
If anybody have questions, you can just write them in the chat.
Sure. Yep. Okay, so let's go to the next slide. And I'm going to go through right now for people, in my opinion, you can, as long as other people are okay, this isn't something I thought of. It's a simple idea. And I'm going to go through this and just talk about this idea and questions that people normally might have and how I would go about answering them. And this is just it's a project example idea. Um, a lot of people think it's cool to have an avatar of themselves in 1980s graphics. So you take an app where you could upload one of your own photos, pixelate it with some cool, 80s graphics, and then download an image that you can use. Would be a pretty simple use case. And then you build the app. You've got an image, you upload it, you pixelate it, you download it, and then you serve it out there for people to use. And like the biggest question that people, when they think of a cool idea, they want to put their idea together. And that's what this first. So the question is, how do we develop this? And then I'm saying the answer, just start with, when you say, how do you develop this? Like, just structure your idea in a clear way, and be able to explain it. That's the first thing. And then once you've decided how you can develop it, what your idea is, then what you would do after you decide what your idea is you have to decide on what your MVP is. And MVP means minimum viable product. And there's another slide after this one about the MVP that I'm going to talk a lot about. But that's generally when how do you develop it, your story, your vision, you decide on this MVP. And then from there you go, okay, well, what skills do we need? And so for this app, given our use case, given what we're going to talk about what our MVP is, we know what skills we need. We know that we need somebody that can build requirements and then review those for the UI. UI means user interface for the app. This person should have an idea of what's possible in Python Dash, because as I'm going to talk about in the next slide, Python Dash is how we're going to serve this up. This person would be responsible for architecture deployment. And we need a couple of Python developers because this is going to go on in Python. And let's suppose that our team is new. We don't have a lot of experience, and we may need to look at a couple of courses on Udemy or some other course to get up to speed in Python. And then, so I'm saying, how do we present it once we get through? When we present our MVP to the judges, we'll present our app in Python Dash. We'll go through the what I talked about on the other slide, the problem, the how we solved it, and the solution. And then it's always a good idea, if you're presenting an app live to judges, it is always a good idea to have some backup slides in case there's an issue with a live demo, because I had problems in this talk tonight and didn't have a backup plan. So learn from me that, these technical problems always or can always happen. So when you just have a backup plan for whatever technical difficulties you might have. And then so the other one is, what if I don't know the code off the top of our head? Like if you have a coding challenge, you're building your app, you don't know a piece of code. If you've never, written a lot of code before, it's gonna be very daunting. It's normal. It's completely normal. Don't get frustrated. But what I'll do it, a lot of responsible or experienced developers will do, if they don't know how to write a line of code, they'll use Google, Stack Overflow, take some Udemy courses. And if you can't find anything out there, just, call one of the mentors. We're happy to help. Um, I like to actually look at and learn from participants and people that have questions. Like I actually really learn myself from answering your questions, because it gives me a glimpse into how other people think and what other people are understanding. And, the mentors we're always here to help you solve, uh, challenges you might have and make you successful. And like, as I said, in hard coding cases, I use these online resources all the time. Sometimes, in some cases more than others, but this is normal. If you don't know code, just don't get frustrated. That's the big thing. And don't be afraid to ask. Don't be afraid to use Google. That's the point. And then let's go to the next slide, please. So as I said before, the minimum viable product, MVP. This MVP is something we talk about this in industrial applications all the time. It's something on nearly anytime we're developing a new solution. This is you'll hear this a lot. I mean, you won't always hear it called an MVP, but it's the same thing. It's the crux of your problem. It's what you want to make. You'll make this decision early in the project, and the MVP is what you want to get to. It's where you want to get at the end in order to prove your concept. So, for example, in our case, our MVP is an app in Python Dash where we can demonstrate that a user can navigate to the browser, upload an image, pixel it, and download the image. We will present ideas of how we think our app can be deployed. And notice that my MVP is not a deployed app, right? My MVP is only to demonstrate. I mean, what I mean by not a deployed app, what I mean by that is it's not live so that users can actually use it. It means that I can have a build time, I can get to it in a browser, and I can provide a demonstration of the app, for example. But if you would like to talk about the next stages in live deployment, you can definitely do that. And if you want to, you can test a couple deployment strategies. So that's what our MVP is. And I think I said it, but I want to make it clear that the MVP is where you want to get to. It is your goal. And it's, you'll hear in practical applications, you'll hear about this and you'll talk about it all the time. So when you're doing a hackathon, this is a good way, if you plan on being a developer, it's a good habit to get into, to start thinking towards where you want to end up. And the last thing that I want to talk about here is what happens if you don't get to your MVP, right? What happens if we have constraints or difficulties? You don't have to finish it. I mean, you should try, but just let's face it, like, projects are not always successful in AI. They're not. But it doesn't mean that we can't present what we did accomplish, what we learned, and what we think we can do next, because sometimes some of the best successes actually come out of failures. You'll see it a lot in industry. And so just, talk about what you learned, and what you think you might do next, and how you think this might benefit the industry. And the most important thing to remember is that a hackathon is mostly about team spirit, and it's about growth. And just remember that. And let's go to the next one. Slide, please. And yeah, that's it. I really just want to thank you for your time. I hope I've shed some light on some of the questions that we've had. I hope I've explained what a project is, how to structure one, and how to go about doing one. If you have any questions, or if I missed something that you want to know, please, reach out to me, and I'll just open it up real quick for the last couple of minutes. Does anybody have any questions?
Please feel free to ask the questions on the chat and I can relay them to Barry.
Yeah, sure.
I got one behind the slideshow. How would Python Dash be used as an alternative way of well, how would I say this? When we're doing with a full stack and we're working with all the processes, how would Python Dash, instead of doing all the processes of the full stack, why should we use Python Dash unless it's for something like an agile methodology?
So don't confuse your technology stack with your project management methodology. They're separate issues. But the reason why I've suggested Python Dash in my use case is because in the Python Dash framework it's a coupled stack. You know what I mean by a coupled stack? Coupled versus decoupled stack?
Yes.
Okay. So yeah. So when you can write your front end and your back end and Dash, and structure those through callbacks, and the Dash app will it'll write your HTML and Jinja for you, all in the same in the stack. So yeah, I use it. I like it a lot. I don't. There's a lot of things I don't like about it, but honestly, for if you're a Python developer and you're just getting into app development and you're just trying to learn the stack, I recommend going with to start out with a fully coupled stack, and the Dash is a great way to do that.
Okay, thank you.
Because yeah, you don't have to write any HTML. You don't have to use Jinja. There's a little bit of ramp up with how the callbacks work in there, but it's not extremely steep. I wouldn't say it's as steep as trying to learn Python and Java and
everything at the same time. Yeah.
Exactly. Was that a good answer to your question?
Yes, it was. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Okay. Yeah, you're welcome.
Thank you so much, Barry, for your time. I enjoyed your presentation thoroughly.
Thank you.
And yeah, we can go ahead and get started with the next speaker. Again, thank you so much.
Okay. All right, everyone. We'll enjoy the next speakers, and thanks for having me today. Bye.
Thanks for joining.
Thanks, Barry.
All right.
Barry.